The best of the week on Relevant Radio.
We'll go now to Carol in Charlottesville, Virginia. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Patrick. I hope you're well.
Thank you very much. Kind of you.
Well, I'm actually a first-time listener, and if I may give you just a little bit of brief background.
Sure.
I was born to two non-practicing Catholic parents, and at the age of 18, felt the call of the Lord right before Easter, went to all of the... from Holy Thursday through Easter, went to Masses that weekend, spent that summer learning sort of a crash course in Catholicism before I went to college. And while I had been baptized, it was then that I received my first Holy Communion and my confirmation. Attended church religiously, regularly, but I then married later and then became the proud mother of a son who turned out later to have profound special needs. Okay. And what I mean by profound, he has intellectual and developmental disability as well as autism. But at 6'7" these days, close to age 30, to give you a thumbnail, he still daily enjoys children's TV like Barney the Dinosaur and Blue's Clues. So truly the definition of a gentle giant. Yes. Matthew is also very low verbal, so you can't have a conversation with him. He can express simple needs and wants, but that's pretty much the extent of his speech. Okay. So Matthew is and his name is Matthew, is nearing his 30th birthday. Now, he was never, I could never take him to church because of no fault of his own, but at times behavioral issues and such. And plus, he wouldn't get anything out of it. And I had to spend my time with him. And so, unfortunately, I fell off with attending Mass regularly. But recently, Matthew has gone into a adult special needs care home and goes to day support. So I'm beginning now to have the freedom to return. I've never lost my faith, but in terms of returning to, going to Mass, I have some disabilities that don't always allow me to go, but I go when I can. So I apologize for all the background, but here comes the question. Okay. So as I'm returning to my faith and getting more acquainted and or reacquainted with the Catholic religion, I have had, in the case of Matthew, something that's been on my mind, and I'm not quoting it verbatim, forgive me, but the idea of when Christ said, "Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has life in him, and he who doesn't does not." Mm-hmm. Now, Matthew is in no mental capacity to participate, with knowledge and consent to receive Holy Communion and confirmation as I did. But I hear that in my mind, and I'm thinking, should I, even just one time, have him, or give him, or have a priest give him Holy Communion so that he will have had, at that point in his life, consumed the body and blood of Christ. Matthew is incapable of sin, in my humble opinion. That's for God finally, ultimately, to decide. But at his level of functioning, other than original sin in the court, and I did have him baptized, but I don't know of any sin that he could have possibly committed in his life. But I apologize for the complicatedness of this.
No, it's fine.
But that's the root of it. And so many parents of, special needs is truly a spectrum. Some people have it to a little extent where it's more like a learning disability, but they speak, they go to college, some of them. This is not Matthew. This is a eternal child, essentially, in an adult's body. So any guidance that you would have or thoughts, I would certainly appreciate them.
Yes, happy to do so. Well, what a beautiful situation that you're in, having a child who has not fallen into any serious sin, or maybe no sin at all. What a great grace for him, even though he's got a cross to carry. The spiritual safety that he experiences is really a great thing. Mm-hmm. So a few thoughts here. Number one, the church says that for somebody to receive Holy Communion, we're talking here about the Latin rite of the church, because I'll just pause for a moment. In the Eastern Catholic churches, such as the Byzantine Rite, or for that matter, those churches separated from us, like the Eastern Orthodox churches. But let's talk about the Catholic rites, like Byzantine Rite. Even infants are communed. That's the term that they use there. So when a baby is baptized, he is baptized, chrismated, which is their word for confirmation, and communed all at once at the time of baptism as an infant. And then that child receives Holy Communion as a matter of course every Sunday with his parents. They hold him up to the priest or the deacon. He spoons the Eucharist into his mouth. So I offer that as a side note. I'll come back to the Latin Rite in a moment. But I offer that as a side note to demonstrate that in its broadest sense, the Church in no way says that even infants can receive Holy Communion, because you see it in these Eastern Catholic rites. But in the Latin Rite of the Church, it's not customary. It's not something that's done. And it's in favor of the way of looking at it, that the child should have at least a basic knowledge of what the Eucharist is, and that the Holy Eucharist is not regular food. It's not like having a sandwich or potato chip or something like that. But where is that basic awareness? To what extent can we safely say that Matthew could have that basic awareness? Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. So this is where the Church would say, in the Latin Rite, probably not. In other words, allowing him to receive. However, the parish priest, the pastor in particular, certainly a bishop could make an exception and say, I will allow it. And the key here would be if he's even capable of understanding the concept of God and the concept of Jesus. And I don't know how well you'd be able to determine that, but that would be the question that would be asked. And I think the Church's general disposition is we want to make it as possible for people in this situation to receive Holy Communion. And the priest might say, well, he doesn't have any concept whatsoever, therefore we will demur. But I could see that the priest may say, well, so that he can receive his first Holy Communion, because strictly speaking, it's not necessary that he have full awareness of this. It's customary, but not necessary. In which case, the priest might say, okay, we can give him a little sip of the precious blood after I talk to him and after I try to impress upon him what this is to the best he can understand it. So it's not a rigid standard. It's more of a strong custom. But that custom could have exceptions depending upon the things I just mentioned.
And if I may follow up, and thank you for that explanation, and hence that sort of presents the conundrum that I find here. Knowing Matthew as well as I do, and his low level of functioning, and he lives a happy life. I mean, Matthew is in many ways very blessed, because he doesn't have to deal with a lot of the trials and concerns and pressures that most of us do, as long as his needs are met, and and Barney the dinosaur can come on and his TV works. He's a happy young man. I as I said, as far as I can tell, he operates at such a low functioning level intellectually and developmentally that nobody could, concept of God is just out there. There would be no way a priest or anybody could sit and explain that to him. So my concern has been more of as a one-time thing, with the idea again that he who doesn't have the flesh and blood of Christ will have no life in him, and in terms of the afterlife, that is my concern. I am confident.
Let me jump in, Carol, and I'd like to address that concern directly. There's no need to be concerned for that, because if his baptismal innocence is intact, and I strongly suspect that it is, then that's in itself sufficient for him. And there would be no penalty or problem or deficiency or anything if he's unable to receive Holy Communion. That is something that we are called to do as a matter of course, but that's presuming that the person grows up and reaches maturity, etc., or at least the age of reason. But he is not in any jeopardy if, let's say, your pastor were to decide now he's not really able to receive communion, you would not have anything to worry about, because that is not something that would apply to him, given his circumstances.
Well, that's a great relief to me, because in a nutshell, that what you just described has been my concern. On my own, I'm fully convinced that from now until the time the Lord calls him home, Matthew will not commit any sin. He's incapable of it. He's a sweet young man, and as his mother, obviously, I'm wanting to do whatever I can to best ensure his afterlife with the Lord. So I thank you very much for that. That's a load off my mind.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Carol. I'm happy to give you some relief on that. But I would encourage you to sit down and talk with your pastor, and just lay out the details for him, and express that you would like, if it's possible, for your son to receive Holy Communion. And perhaps the bishop might be consulted, but I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility, is what I'm trying to say. So it's certainly worth looking into. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that.
That was the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the Best of the Week is on the Relevant Radio app, free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.